So an article, over a year ago now, I guess Feb of last year, by our next guest, opened an investigation into potential foreign interference in Canadian elections. You remember the story. You remember, of course, we went back and forth and back until the government finally said, yeah, okay, I guess we should do something. Well, after much hand-wringing led to that formal investigation finally being called under Justice Marie-Josée Hogg, that investigation is now, a year later, running into roadblocks of its own. Robert FIFE, Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Globe and Mail, is on the line. Robert, thanks for being here this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about why not very much has happened and what the latest stumbling block is.
Well, I mean, it's really just begun, and we have to wait and see how the inquiry goes. One of the best things that's happened is that the explorer groups have come back after the commission agreed that they didn't have to be cross-examined, particularly by people who they felt were sympathetic to Beijing's interest, and I think that has been a benefit. They've also allowed the political parties to have legal representation. The Conservatives and New Democrats, who were, particularly the Conservatives, were the target of Chinese foreign interference in the 2021 and 2019 election campaign, and they've been asking very good questions. This week is going to be really an important one. We're going to hear from Aaron O'Toole, the former Conservative leader, Michael Chong, Conservative Foreign Affairs critic Jenny Kwan, the NDP and MP. All of these people have been targeted, along with a former Conservative MP, Kenny Chu. So my view is, let's see how the process works before we make any kind of rash decisions. I mean, last week we saw was that the Chief Electoral Officer and the Commissioner of Elections Canada, which investigates electoral wrongdoing, they didn't seem to have a hell of a lot of interest in really investigating foreign interference. And I think this is a serious problem. And I hope at the end of the day, when the recommendations come out in the end of December, that we'll have proper laws in place and that there will be marching orders that foreign interference must be treated much more seriously than it has been in this country.
See, and that's what I was referring to, Robert, when I said roadblock. So you have the Chief Electoral Officer who actually said he doesn't have the authority to examine about some donors. And then you mentioned the Commissioner of Canada Elections, basically, for all intents and purposes, saying the same thing. Oh, it's not that easy to do. That seems to me like a roadblock, is it not?
Yes, but it's not necessarily a roadblock at the commission hearings. It's what it shows is that the government and its institutions have not taken foreign interference seriously, even though we heard last week from representatives of diaspora groups from the Uyghur Canadians, Chinese Canadians, Indian Sikhs, Russian Canadians, Iranian Canadians. All of them laid out the depth of foreign interference in this country and how it affects these people in these communities. So it's a very serious issue. It needs to be dealt with much more seriously than this government has been doing. And one of the good values, I think, of having the testimony of these two, of the Chief Electoral Officer and the Commissioner of Elections, is that it was there for everybody to see. They don't think it's, or they may think it's a problem now, but they certainly haven't had no interest in really looking into it.
I wonder, too, so given the fact that, as you said, it's there to see, we also have a situation where a government, and we know there's going to be an election next year, it would seem to me would want to wait as long as possible to have this thing move forward. Am I just dreaming that, or is that, do you think, a consideration?
Well, the political parties had agreed that Justice Hogg had to report in her final report, which was recommendations, to report back by the end of December. One would hope, on the basis of that, the Parliament could move fairly quickly in the new year to pass legislation that would protect or take steps to make it more difficult for countries like China to be able to interfere in election campaigns.
I wonder, too, the idea now, we set allegations up until not that long ago. Have we moved beyond saying allegations? We now have proof that, in fact, this did happen, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have lots of evidence that it's been going on. But what we have is a lack of interest in government and political authorities to deal with it. I mean, look at the we know the Chinese police stations have been operating in this country. In the United States, they've laid charges against these people. In Canada, what we did with the RCMP parked a couple of cruisers outside these police stations to try to shut it down. I mean, in the Czech Republic just last week, they arrested and closed down bank accounts of citizens who were working with Russians to try to influence the European Union election campaigns. Much different approach in Europe and in the United States than we see here in Canada.
I wonder, too, so at the end of all this, if we get that report by the end of the year, is this a matter, do you think, of a systemic failure, if you will, or are there people involved in here who we yet don't know about who might be implicated?
Look, the one issue we have to, in my mind, the big issue that has to be resolved by the commission, and I hope Justice Ogue has been able to do this, is, look, we've seen the CSIS top secret and secret reports that laid out the extent of Chinese foreign interference in the 2019 and in particular 2021 election campaigns, laid out black and white intelligence that was shared not with our allies, Five Eyes allies, as well as the Prime Minister's office, Public Safety Minister's office, the Justice Minister's office. A lot of senior officials saw this, and for some reason, as we heard in parliamentary inquiries, nobody read these reports. I find that a little hard to believe, but the question is, did they not want to read it? Because they might have had to then take action, and in this particular instance, it benefited the Liberals in a significant number of ridings if Liberal MPs were elected over Conservatives, because the Chinese consulate and their proxies were using everything they could, including disinformation campaigns, the support within the Chinese language media that are often owned by Hong Kong companies or Chinese companies, a whole range of issues, bringing in international students working on campaigns, which, as you know, if you're running an election campaign, you got a bunch of volunteers, and they all happen to be international students. Well, that's pretty helpful. So all of that stuff we have to have answers. What did the Prime Minister know? When did he know it? What did he do about it? Or was this a situation where nobody told him because he didn't want to know?
Yeah, big question, and one that will ultimately get answered. I was going to ask Robert, not necessarily central to this story, but I think we all remember back to when David Johnston was appointed initially and everything that came from that. Have we heard anything from him since then?
No. He's kept a very low profile since then.
Fair enough. Robert, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye.
Robert FIFE, Ottawa Bureau Chief of the Globe and Mail. So as you heard, there'll be some information released. They expect the judge to release her findings by the end of the year. So before an election would be called in 2025, we shall see.